All right, guys, let's take a look. Let's preview the show coming up tonight in Japan, tomorrow morning here on the East Coast. That is May 21st. Again, that's tomorrow morning on the East Coast. Let's take a look at this show. I'm going to preview it for you right now. If I could just learn to talk right. First matchup is the return of Kazuyuki Fujita. Coming back, starting at the bottom, says he's going to climb back to the top and get his GHC title back as he faces Kenya Okada. This will be a kick-ass match, but I think Okada's in some danger here. Look, like him or not, Fujita is a serious fighter. He can take guys out legitimately anytime he really wants to. Now, Kenya Okada, boy, did he look really good against Simon Gotch. He looked really good against Nakajima recently. Look, he always looks really good. He's going to have his breakout moment. And we're all going to be a witness to it, and it's going to be great, but it's not going to be here. Kazuyuki Fujita is going to win this match probably fairly quickly. And would I love to see Okada get the win? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. Second match coming up tomorrow morning on the East Coast here. 5/21/22 from Pro Wrestling Noah's Daiki Inaba and Junta Miyawaki teaming up against Kai Fujimura and Yoshiki Inamura. Now, this is a lot of young guys for the most part, except for Daiki Inaba thrown in here, given the experience to him and Miyawaki. Inamura looking good, looking great, going to be a star. I mean, almost every big name that Inamura has been in the ring with has left that match the victor, but also giving high praise to Inamura, saying he is Noah's future. And he absolutely is. Kai Fujimura, I've been saying I'm missing him teaming with Alejandro. I don't know why Noah seems to have pulled away from that. I wish they'd get back to doing that. They make a great team. That's not saying that Fujimura and Inamura won't look and be great together. I'm sure they will. But I don't see them overcoming the experience of Daiki Inaba. Daiki Inaba has overcome pile drivers on the ring apron from Marufuji. He has overcome being DDT'd on the concrete floor. How could you not see Daiki Inaba as a near Superman? And while he may not win all of his matches, you don't see any of these young guys taking him out, surely. If he can survive moves like that from an experienced wrestler like Marufuji, he can overcome Inamura and Fujimura. And that's what will happen here. Daiki Inaba will lead the way for him and Junta Miyawaki because he's almost unstoppable. Oh, Shuhei Taniguchi, if I pronounced that correctly, no longer King Tani, but still dressing like King Tani, abandons the Funky Express, challenges Muhammad Yone. We're going to see just what this does for Taniguchi's career. Now, he's been Shuhei Taniguchi numerous times throughout his career. He's wrestled as a beast, as a monster, and he never got anywhere, really. He had some good matches. He's a big, strong guy, but it never really did anything for him. He went to the Funky Express and started to have some fun, and they got some wins here or there, but the Funky Express has never been on top of the card, and he didn't see it going that way either, I assume, because I surely saw it not going that way. But Yone, I mean, that's a first big challenge. Muhammad Yone is underrated and overlooked far too much. And if Taniguchi thinks he's just going to get Yone in the ring and use him as a stepping stone to further his career under a new gimmick, I don't see that happen. I think Muhammad Yone wins this unless Taniguchi really gets underhanded, really wrestles a big-time rule breaker, which is possible. Unless he really gets underhanded here, I think Yone gets the win. Next match up is an 8-man tag team matchup. We got Congo, my boys from Congo. Hiruki, again, that's not Hi-69 or HI-69, that is Hiruki, teaming with Shuji Kondo. He's back, coming in here to help the Congo brothers out. Tadasuke and Hajime Ohara. They take on the Noah Jr. regulars, Daisuke Harada, Atsushi Katogi, Yohei, and Hao. Now, Hao has been on a hell of a streak, if you will. He just has really looked good. Yohei has looked great as of late. Katoge's always good, and Harada is one of the best juniors in the world. I want to predict Congo here because they need it. Yes, they just recently got a big win on the last show that we reviewed before this segment. I think they still need the wins here. I don't know who's going to suffer the pinfall loss, if anybody is really, from the Noah Jr. regulars, but I really think they need the win here. I think Kondo coming back and stepping up is a big help, even though because Manabu Soya was a big help to the Noah Juniors the last time he teamed with them, but the last time Kondo teamed with them, he was not. So here's my prediction. I think Kongo's going to get the win because they need it. But if they don't, it's going to cause Kondo to be extremely unhappy and possibly not want to help Kongo anymore. I could see that happening. I could see him sort of turning his back on them if they were to suffer a loss here and maybe going into a feud with someone like Tadasuke. We'll see. I think that's a possibility. That would be interesting. Next up is more Kongo, and we're talking about Manabu Soya, Katsuhiko Nakajima, and Matsuki Funaki. They take on the Segura Army, meaning Takashi Segura himself and Hideki Suzuki, the two that they're formerly the GHC Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, and they're teaming with M's Alliance. Are they still around or not? I don't know. Mochizuki. Now, Mochizuki and Segura used to be a team called the Bullet Yankees, I believe that's what they were called, and they were an excellent team. Those two fight together and fight against each other, meaning Segura and Mochizuki, and it's always lights out. Here they're teaming together with their partner Hideki Suzuki, but again, they're facing a team that I personally believe should be dominating. No, they're not, but they should be. Kongo are badass. I mean, Funaki is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world right now. Nakajima should be, but I don't know what Noah's doing with him. And Manabu Soya needs something to kick him in the ass and get him going, Mr. Enforcer. I mean, that's really what we need to see here. Based on how Kongo's been performing as of late, I want to say that, Mochizuki, Suzuki, and Segura are probably going to win this. But then I look and I see Funaki standing there, and I see Nakajima, two of the greatest wrestlers in the world, by far. And I'm going to pick my boys Kongo. I think they get back on a hot streak on this show. And winning this would go a big ways. Another Kongo representing Keno. Next up against Simon Gotch. Now look, Simon Gotch is great. Except for his hairstyle. I don't know what that little flat mohawk going halfway down your nose is, brother. But you don't see it in this picture here. But when it's like that, it's one of the weirdest Eddie Munster looking things I've ever seen. Keno has pretty much guaranteed victory no matter how violent Simon Gotch is going to get, because he said he's going to get violent in this match. I think this is going to be one of the best matches on the card, one of the best matches on this show. I think Keno needs it way more than Simon Gotch does. Simon Gotch has come in and represented extremely well. He hasn't won all his matches. He recently lost to Kaito Kiyomiya in an excellent matchup. So this would hurt him a little bit, losing 2 in a row. But he's a gaijin. He's a foreigner coming in here. And we're all just going to have to get over it, because I think Keno wins this. I think Keno needs to win this. And he will win this. But it's going to be great. And I think one of the best matches on this show. I really do. Wow. Stinger versus Stinger here. I cannot believe how this has all come about. But Seiki Yoshioka and Yu Susumu violently attacked Ogawa and Ridgeway, especially Ogawa, in their challenge for these titles that Yoshioka and Susumu never lost. These titles were taken from them a few months back when Yoshioka broke his heel and was out for a number of weeks. So they had to forfeit the GHC Junior Championships. Along the way, they weren't the first winners of them when they were taken from Susumu and Yoshioka. But along the way, Ogawa and Ridgeway win the junior titles, and when their partners, their friends, their unit members, fellow unit members, Seiki Yoshioka and Yu Susumu returned, they bided their time and then jumped them and challenged them for the titles. Ogawa was impressed by this, because I know Ogawa is impressed anytime someone is that bold, even people in his own unit. So I'm sure he was. But he's also boldly stepped up, and not at first, my understanding was that he said that if Yoshioka and Susumu were to lose here, they're out of Stinger. That is part of it. But he's also saying if he and Ridgeway lose, they are out of Stinger. The losers of this match no longer in the Stinger unit. I mean, right when Stinger becomes possibly the most powerful they've ever been, Their infighting is going to cause them to dissolve to a certain point. Not dissolve is not the right word. It's going to cause them to lose members. So 2 of these 4 men you're looking at right here are not only wrestling for the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, they're wrestling for their lives in Stinger. I can't even see Stinger without Ogawa. So it's hard for me to predict against the champions here. But let me tell you something. Yoshioka and Susumu have looked as badass as they get. As badass as anyone gets. As badass as they come during this feud that's built up to this match. It's hard to pick against them. I think this is going to be kick-ass. I think this is going to be murder in the ring. I think these 4 are going to go at it like no one else on the show. But I'm going to go with Ogawa and Ridgeway. They are amazing champions. I think they're going to be very difficult to beat. They beat some great men along the way here, some great teams to get here to this matchup. And as good as Yoshioka and Susumu are, I think they're going to start a sort of a new, not a new career, but a new trajectory in their careers as they leave Stinger after this loss and probably get more intense and more dedicated and maybe start a unit of their own or something, or just pick a kick-ass tag team name and really start to be, and eventually win these belts when they start to be the best junior tag team in Noah. I think that's what this is going to lead to, but I'm not saying they're there yet, but this match is going to start pushing them in that direction. But the champions retain here, in my opinion. Next up, kind of a surprising match for the GHC Junior Heavyweight Singles Championship as Hayata, who has been as badass as Hayata has ever been, in my opinion. And he's held this title several times. But here, as of late, there's just something really seems to have snapped in some way in Hayata, and he has been a badass. And he's taken on Extreme Tiger, who has come in here and surprised me in a lot of ways. Now, I didn't know a lot about Extreme Tiger before he came in. I did know that he was a former X Division champion from Impact Wrestling. Impressive on some level, but there's also been some X Division champions that do nothing for me. I don't know who he beat. I didn't look that intensely into it. But I think he's going to be a stiff challenge. I think he's going to be a difficult challenge, and I wouldn't be completely shocked if he won here, but I'd be a little surprised. I think Hayata is just on a roll like he's not been on in some time, possibly ever. I think he is now, unless Susumu and Yoshioka come in here and cost him the title, you never know, and then maybe they start a faction with Extreme Tiger. That's just popped in my head all of a sudden. I'm not necessarily predicting it. But short of something like that happening, I think Hayata wins this. I think he really, I don't want to say struggles, but I think he probably comes in underestimating Extreme Tiger on some level and causes him to have to turn it up a little bit, but I think he will turn it up, and I think he retains here. GHC Heavyweight Tag Team Championships on the line, and they have, boy, as these titles become hot. Ever since that mini tournament where Segura and Suzuki won them, these titles have really felt valuable, and they haven't been held by anybody for real long. Those 2 lost them in their second defense. They did manage to beat Keno and Nakajima in a great matchup. And then they lost to their faction unit members, Rene Dupree and Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. They lost them. I mean, kind of surprisingly in a way, but they had been worn down, in my opinion, by Keno and Nakajima. You know how your wife jokes when she can't get the cap off something and you get it and she says, oh, I loosened it? That's sort of how I see this situation. Not that Dupree and Wagner Jr. aren't great. They're a great team. But I do think they more easily won those titles after they wrestled their friends, coming off a very hard victory over Nakajima and Keno. The previews of these matches have been very good. We have seen Masa Kitamiya submit Wagner Jr. in his prison lock, and we have seen Wagner Jr. submit Kitamiya with his sort of modified camel clutch. Can't remember the other name for him, sorry. And we have seen Michael Elgin and Rene Dupree fight to a double countout. And so we don't really know who has an advantage going in here. They really look pretty even. Both teams look great. Now, to be fair, Dupree and the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. have been tag teaming longer than Michael Elgin and Masa Kitamiya. But Elgin and Kitamiya are such beasts, such monsters, such bull of the woods, if you will, that I don't think it matters. I think they just come in here as such a massive force that it's hard to deny them. Now, who's going to win this matchup? Look, I got a bias. I'm a fan of Michael Elgin and Masa Kitamiya more so than I am of Dupree and the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. And that's not saying I don't like Dupree and the son of Dr. Wagner Jr. I do. I appreciate them, I respect them, and I think they're great champions, and I wouldn't be shocked if they retain. But I'm going to let my bias color me a little bit here and pick Michael Elgin and Masaki Tamiya to win the championships because I just think they're cut from a different cloth. And if they don't win, I see Michael Elgin with singles gold of some type in the near future. I really think he's that big of a deal. And finally, it is main event time here. I can't believe we've been through, there's 10 matches on this card, folks. Prepare for a long one. Prepare for a long show, probably at least 3 hours. That's my prediction. But we got Kaito Kiyomiya teaming with Masato Tanaka and the GHC heavyweight champion Goji Ozaki taking on the returning Keiji Muto as he teams with Satoshi Kojima and Marufuji. This is very interesting. How is Keiji Muto going to come back from his hip injury? I don't think he had any surgery or anything majorly done to it. I don't think. But we'll see how ready he is for this. I mean, Noah's already pushing him like he's some kind of cyborg or Terminator-looking machine, right? And I think that's based on the fact that he can go still the way that he does at his age, which he's going to be 60 in December, I'm pretty sure. And we'll see if that's true. Is he going to come in here and wrestle like that? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's not going to wrestle badly, but sometimes Keiji Muto gets criticism for being a little slow. Telegraphing some of his moves and guys selling too much for him. I'm not going to jump on that boat. I mean, Muto is probably my favorite wrestler of all time, especially when he was the great Muta. Just loved that guy. Loved everything he did. Kojima has looked like $1 million since he's got out from New Japan and, dad matches. Marufuji has had a chip on his shoulder and has wrestled sort of angrily as of late, and I like that. Kaito Kiyomiya is one of the biggest stars in Noah and definitely the future ace of the company. I absolutely feel that that's going to happen. Goji Ozaki, the 5-time GHC heavyweight champion, record-holding number of title wins for Goji Ozaki. And the most pinnable guy here is Masato Tanaka, and that's saying a lot. Masato Tanaka is one. Just look at him. Look at him. Doesn't he just look like some hardened piece of leather you let out in the weather for 6 months in the sun and the rain and the snow, and it withered a little bit, and it's sort of got some cracks in it and stuff, but the thing is, it's tough as hell. Like, you couldn't break it with the strongest grip in the world. It just looks like you could beat it and pound it and smash it and try to cut it with scissors, and you'd do a little damage to it, but it would still hang in there, because, damn it, it's one hell of a piece of leather. And that's what Tanaka looks like, just like some son of a bitch that you couldn't keep down with anything. Like, you could hurt him a little bit. You could bust him up a little bit. You not necessarily have to be afraid of him like maybe you had to be 10, 20 years ago. But by God, you can't walk in there against him and think, I'm just going to handle this guy without much of a problem. Because he's one of the older ones and he's not the biggest name in this six-man. But that's probably the guy, having said all that, he's probably the guy who's going to eat the loss here by pin or submission. And giving the win to the returning Keiji Muto. And the challenging Kojima coming up for the GHC title against Goji Ozaki. And Marufuji against Kaito Kiyomiya is always great stuff, no matter what. So there are my picks for the show, folks. There's what I think about this show. It's going to be great. It's an excellent show. Multiple title matches. Let's look back here real quick. Tag team title match. Heavyweight tag titles on the line. Will be great. The Junior Heavyweight Championship on the line will be great. The Junior Tag Team titles on the line will be great. That Congo all over this card in tag team matches. The breakup of the Funky Express. The return of Kazuyuki Fujita. This is a must-see show. I'm absolutely positive it's going to score in the 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 range. I'm almost positive it is. I think we're going to see some shocks and some surprises on this show. I think it's going to be a great big deal on Wrestle Universe. You want to subscribe. You've got, a little more than 12 hours, probably about 15 hours until this show kicks off. Well, that's from the point that I'm recording this. By the time this uploads to YouTube and stuff, you're probably going to have about 10 hours until you can subscribe to Wrestle Universe and watch this show. Or if you watch it live, you can see it on Abema, A-B-E-M-A, Japanese television, Abema, for free if you watch it live. If you can't watch it live, The first several matches, first 3 or 4 matches, will be on YouTube for free. Now let's take, if it's the first 4, we've got Fujita versus Okada, you'll see for free. Inaba and Miyawaki versus Inamura and Fujimura for free. The breakup of the Funky Express matchup, Muhammad Yone versus Shuhei Taniguchi, for free. And I don't know if we're going to this match as well, but if we are, then you'll see this amazing Congo matchup. Haruki, Suji Kondo, Hajime Ohara, Tadasuke taking on the Noah Junior regulars, Yohei, Hao, Atsushi Katogi, and Daisuke Harada. Just get that for free. And then if you want to subscribe or watch it on a Bema, you get it all for free. If you can get on there and watch this live on ABEMA Japanese television. Free. Here's your chance to see why I'm right and you should be subscribed to Wrestle Universe. Without a doubt. Folks, that's been this week's preview. We've got the Noah news to bring you to wrap up this week's Mount Ararat podcast, and we'll be back with that here in just a minute.